Sorrel. Good morning. Good morning. I have a question for you, Sorrel. What has more lives than a cat?
A dog, of course.
A dog? How do you figure?
Well, dogs eat cats, and cats have 9 lives. So therefore, dogs have 10 lives.
That just means dogs have resilience. No, the animal that has more lives than a cat is a frog because it croaks every night.
I didn't understand it. What does croak mean?
Croak. Was that you giggling? Was that you giggling, Sorrel? I have a friend that tells me that when I giggle, I sound like Betty. Who's the lady from the Flintstones? Betty Rubble. She says I sound like her. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, our daily huddlers. So glad that you are here. Welcome to Spiritual Matters Thursday. I am your host, Dr. Monikah Ogando, and I am delighted that you are here. I am so excited to start the day because, I like getting in people's Kool-Aids. I like getting in people's business. I like getting to the nitty-gritty of things. So let's get started. Andrea, how are you?
Monikah, I am the way I say I am, and today I'm peaceful.
Ooh, I like that. Today I am peaceful, she says. I love it. Sorrel, where are you and what are you grateful for?
I am right where I'm supposed to be, and that is here. And I'm grateful for dogs.
Oh, that's why you brought them up. Okay, I love it. I love it too. Gio, what time is it and who are you going to hug today?
The time, hold on. Right now,
okay.
It's now. And who I am going to hug today will be my amazing clients.
Nice. You hug your clients. That's great. That kind of reminds me of that scene in Jerry Maguire when they have like this intimate moment and then the other agent's like, how come we don't do that? When you're Gio's client's like, hey, I got a hug. Why not? How can I get a hug? I love it. So I love today's topic. We're going to talk about, are you saying I can't when you really mean I won't? And this might get dicey, Sorrel. So prepare yourself, roll up your sleeves. Andrea, take a deep breath. Lizeth, ground yourself. Because it necessitates that we tell the truth at least to ourselves. And you know that I always, there you go, James Bond, put your seatbelt on. That's right, we're going for a ride. It necessitates that we be truthful with ourselves. Here's what I mean by that. Have you ever been in a situation where a friend asks you to go to a particular event or a particular thing that they've got going on, and you say to them, I can't really make it because, and you blame it on whatever, the weather, the kids, a previous commitment. No, I full well, you ain't got no previous commitment, but you say I can't because that sounds almost more socially acceptable than I don't want to go. Have you ever done that? Tell the truth. Have you ever done that?
All the time.
Yes. And so, but here's the thing. You might know that you're just trying to let them out down easy. You might know that you're opting for the more quote unquote socially acceptable letdown. In some circles, we call that a lie. But sometimes what happens is that we do that to ourselves. We do that to ourselves with our own limitations. We do that to ourselves with our own goals. That the reason why I can't make 6 figures in my business is because the reason why I can't make 7 figures in my business is because the market, or I don't have my niche, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. The reason why I can't communicate with my child is because blah, blah, blah. And it's not sometimes because you can't. I remember a friend of mine, we were just driving, and everybody that knows me knows that I have musical Tourette's. It's when, you know, you and I are in a conversation and something you say reminds me of a song, and I'll just break out and sing it. I don't care if I'm holding a key. I don't care, but you recognize the song and it'll be a moment between us, right? And usually when I tell people that I have musical Tourette's and I define it, they're like, oh, I have musical Tourette's too. It's more general and chronic than you think. It's incurable. And we were going down a road, my friend and I, and so she said something to me about, we were talking and I broke out in song and she was like, oh, that's awesome. I can't sing. And I was like, do you realize that the same vocal cords that you used to say I can't sing are the ones you use to sing? Do you realize this? She was like, no, but I was like, I think what you mean is I can't sing like you. That's probably accurate, but you can sing like yourself, right? And so we have to check our own assumptions on certain things. That's what I'm inviting you to. I'm always going to invite you to check your assumptions. When you say I can't, are you saying the way I want to do it is not available to me, so I won't do it any other way? Are you saying, I don't like this timeline. I want it to take less time, and since it's going to take more time, I'm not willing to play? Maybe that's what you mean. Or maybe you mean, I don't want to put forth this much effort. If I have to put off this much effort, then it's going to be more difficult than I'm willing to engage, and I'm just not going to do it. Maybe that's what you mean. The invitation that I'm making is say that, even if you don't want to say it to somebody else, even if you don't want to admit it to anybody else, say it to yourself so that you can at least create a muscle of self-trust. Self-trust happens when yourself can depend on yourself to say and do what's authentically true for you. That's where self-trust really, really gets strong, when you can at least depend on yourself for that. So I can hear the what ifs now. For example, no, I really can't save my brother-in-law's life. I wish I could heal him, right? No, I really can't, I couldn't prevent that miscarriage. I couldn't prevent whatever tragedy, insert whatever tragedy or loss that you have experienced, and you can see a way that you really couldn't do anything about that. There are some things that are beyond your control. I'm not debating that. What I'm suggesting is that in as much as what can be in your control, do you say the truth about it, about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do? Or do you just chuck it all to, I can't? Not all, the socially acceptable parts, right? And so the spiritual wisdom and the spiritual maturity begins when you are willing to say to yourself, at least, if not to others, I'm not willing to do that. So here's a little exercise that I have done with some of my clients. Gio was talking about clients before. Here's a little exercise that I've done with my clients for years. I learned it once in a training and I've been using it ever since. And I like to call it the A to Z roadmap. You know, I'm always giving you homework. It's always going to be homework. Every time that I'm in here unsupervised, it's going to be some homework. So take something that you say that you have to do, right? Or something that you say that you cannot do. Take one of those. I have to go to work. Throw something out in the chat. I have to go to work. I have to pay my bills. Or I can't deal with this person's attitude. I just can't seem to get along with my mother-in-law. I don't care what I try. Whatever it is that you have in your favorite I can't or I have to category, put those things down. And then here's where I want you to go. Here's the road that I want you to follow with that A to Z roadmap. whatever that thing is, I have to, let's say, pay my bills, or I can't get along with my mother-in-law. Choose that and say, if I don't, whatever that thing is, A, like Andrea just put in the chat, I have to complete 2 proposals today. If I don't complete 2 proposals today, then B, whatever B is a negative consequence of not doing A. So I have to complete 2 proposals today. I'm going to take your example, Andrea. I have to complete 2 proposals today. If I don't complete 2 proposals today, what's the negative consequence that happens if you don't do that? It might be, well, then, you know, I miss a deadline and I might miss getting this contract. Something like that, right, Andrea? Right. So I did not keep my word, she says. That's the negative consequence, right? So then take that. If I don't keep my word, then what happens? If I don't keep my word, then people can't trust me, maybe. Okay, then take that. If people can't trust me, what? Then I can't get anything done. Just follow it down the road. If I don't get anything done, people won't hire me. If people won't hire me, I can't pay my bills. If I can't pay my bills, then I'll be homeless. If I'm homeless, I'm gonna have to go back to mom's house. If I go to mom's house, that means I'm an irresponsible person. If I'm an irresponsible person, then I'm an unlovable person. If I'm an unlovable person, then what? What's the worst consequence that could happen out of that? Short of death. I don't want you to die in this roadmap, okay? Right? So what's the worst thing that, I mean, for some people, believe it or not, being unlovable and not having somebody's love is the worst consequence that could happen. So whatever the worst consequence is for you, consider that Z, consider that the end of the road, and then decide. Then decide, would you rather have A or B or Z, excuse me? Would you rather write 2 proposals today, or would you rather be unlovable and away from everybody that you love? The choice is clear. And then you're making a choice. Well, for some of you, Andrea might be like, listen, I will be unlovable today, okay? But at least you're making a choice. Then it's not a matter of I can't do that. Then it's not a matter of I have to do that. I was joking with my husband earlier last night because I'm an immigrant, and there are some things that are part of the culture that I did not know they were part of the culture because I only learned them from a movie. So I told him, you know, when in the movie Lean on Me, he says, I don't have to do anything but stay black and die. And I thought that was just a movie quote. He was like, that's been around for years. What are you talking about? And I was like, no, Joe Carter said that. Da, 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 da. So this is also a great lesson in perspective. When someone says that they can or cannot do something or have to do something, it's not typically because they're intentionally lying. It's because they don't have all the information. And so that's why I take them through this A to Z exercise, because when you realize that you are making choices, you may not like the choices that are available to you, but out of the available choices, I'll choose to write the 2 proposals today. Look at Andrea, she's nodding, she's like, yeah, dang it, yes, I will. I will choose to write the 2 proposals today versus the other choice, the other way that it goes, which is in this Z would be, I'll be unlovable, or I won't get hired, or whatever the Z is for you. Yeah. So I'm going to open it up for dialogue, for questions, for what ifs and comments and ahas and breakthroughs, because, you know, I like talking to y'all when I am here by myself, unsupervised. So who has a question or a comment that you want to, Sorrel, come on in. Let me see if I can
love
add
to say
you.
that you're never unsupervised. That's kind of like your way of saying I can't. Versus I
Yeah,
won't.
that's true, that's true.
You are always unsupervised, whether you're being supervised or not.
Indeed.
You know what this confronts me with, Dr. Ogando, is basically you're saying whether it's A or Z, And whether I'm consciously saying I'm choosing Z or A, I'm choosing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, so mostly when a friend asks me to come to their house and spend some time with them, and I say I can't, you know, I'm just choosing Z and not saying it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really confronting to me that you're saying I'm always choosing.
That's right. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I think
See,
it is
there you go.
important.
That's what you do when you're unsupervised.
I confront people. I told you, it wasn't gonna be pretty. Well, thank you for that. Yes, we are always choosing. Absolutely. Good stuff. Andrea had her hand up. Let's see. There we go.
So thank you so much for the exercise, Dr. Monikah. And it is what brought to me is this idea of the dialogue that we have with ourselves when we're in that path of making decisions, and the opportunity that we have. Actually, let me speak for me, the opportunity that I have in this path. I'm trying to become this person that is not a binary choice, is not this or that.
Mhm.
With this communication, you allow me to see multiple options within, because we don't live in a binary world. There is a gray between the black and the white.
Yes.
There's no right or wrong. There's always things in the middle, and that this thinking allow me to see multiple options in that path of making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I like that. I like that because when you're sharing with us that there aren't just binary choices, that you have a buffet of possibilities, then you can design the solution that you can say yes to, or that you would like to say yes to, versus just this is my only choice, and in the face of this choice, then my answer is no. You can always design it a different way. In business, we call it a counter offer.
Negotiation.
Yeah, you negotiate. When somebody makes you an offer that you don't like, you don't just walk off the table and just, pull the table and say, screw this, I'm leaving. No, you just like, well, what about this? What about this other possibility? Maybe I don't want to come to your house on Saturday, but how about we spend time together instead of with all those people? How about just you and me on Sunday for coffee at our favorite cafe? Then you can still be in connection with your friend and not have your, little introvert sensitivities confronted with everybody else that would be there, right? So it's a win-win. And I always share with people, thank you, Andrea. I always share with people that you actually can create win-win scenarios. You can, C-A-N, there's no apostrophe T. You can create win-win scenarios with people. You just get to sit in the question long enough to design the answers. And that's the invitation that a lot of our confrontive or difficult clients or relatives or friends or etc., that's the invitation that they are. Are you willing to sit long enough with me so that we can co-create, co-design a solution that works for the both of us? It requires that you become a bigger version of yourself. Here's what I mean. You know how when somebody's super busy or they're super stressed, they say things like, man, I have a lot of stuff on my plate, right? And we say that sometimes, like, things are falling off my plate, I'm just leaking everywhere, things are falling off of my plate. Or maybe I have to take things off of my plate in order to manage what remains even better. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Become a bigger plate. Instead of taking things off of it, become big enough to sustain the things that you say that are important to you. Yeah? And so when you do that, you will be able to find possibilities that may not have been available to you. You may be asking for favors or for deadlines to be extended or for considerations that you didn't think were available to you. But when you're big enough, you can make powerful requests. Who else has a question or a comment that you'd like to bring in here? Stan, look at you. I'm looking at you like you're digesting, you're processing, you're thinking, man. You're like deep in it.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Doc.
Yeah, what you got for us today?
I mean, no, it's just what you just said. It makes you realize that there's more to you as your equation.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot more to you, a lot more to us. There's a lot more choices than we have than what we consciously, for the most part, bring into our conception of what's available.
Mhm.
And thank you for making us remember that it's not just either or,
Yeah.
it's and.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I like what you said, Andrea, about multiple choices. It's not just a binary thing. Lisette asks, how do you deal with that strong idea that it's a must, that you can't change the context, that you can't change this situation, that it is beyond your control? And listen, in this world, we will find a lot of things that are beyond our control. Lord have mercy, if everything was within my control, trust me, we would not be living in the world we're living. However, there are some things that are beyond your control. And the thing that you want to ask yourself about it is, given this, what can I do? Given this, what can I bring? Given this, who can I be to create the highest possibility for the highest number? I had to constantly ask myself this question in the face of my little sister. She's younger than I. My little sister's husband was facing an ugly, debilitating disease, ALS, and fought that 6-year battle as valiantly as he could, and then he passed away. And my sister was his primary caregiver. And I saw the toll that it took on her. I saw the toll that it took on their marriage. I saw the toll that it took on their young children. Their young children are now 8 and 5. And imagine that. First of all, I'm not a doctor. There's nothing that I can do medically for him. I can suggest things, nutrients, et cetera, but I don't know enough about that disease in order to be able to say, this is what you can do so that you can heal. I don't know. So there are some things that were beyond my control. And the only thing that I could think of to make this horrible situation a little more, what's the word, Andrea, in Spanish is llevadera, like something that you can, it's easier to deal with. It's interesting when you like speak Spanish in the morning.
What is the word? Like
endure it a little bit. That's right.
Enduring, yep.
So in order for you to be able to endure this thing that you can't walk away from, you can't change the situation, like Lisette says, right? Well, I can be loving instead of being impatient. I can be supportive when he gets self-conscious about not being able to lift things or do things that he used to be able to do. He was very independent, very athletic, very just take charge kind of guy. And now he's dependent on everybody for everything, even feeding him, even cleaning him. And I can imagine that his dignity was at stake in many of those situations. So what I can do is be loving and supportive in such a way that you don't feel like your dignity is at stake when you're dealing with me. Your dignity is safe with me. I love you unconditionally. And it doesn't matter if I'm feeding you or wiping your butt, you are still an amazing human being to me. Your dignity is not at stake. I could do that, right? When my sister was completely stressed, TF out, I can take the boys for a ride so that she can sleep in, right? And then when finally he passed away and it was the saddest day in their lives, I can get out of my bed. When she called me, she says, I think Moose is gone. I was like, what? I couldn't do anything then about that either. I couldn't prevent his death, but I could go to their house. I can sit on the floor with the babies. I could hug them and rock them and say, I'm so sorry, and cry with them. To honor their grief, to honor their sense of loss, to honor the inevitability of death, and to say, you're not doing this alone. I'm right here with you. And I was just rocking them back and forth. And sometimes I didn't have the words. Lord have mercy. Can you believe me without the words? To rock back and forth and just, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry, baby. I kept repeating that. And that was a little, I would like to think, a little soothing. So when you can be in a situation where you are in a situation, this is a long, long way to answer your question, is that when you are in a situation where you feel like you cannot change the context, you cannot change the situation or the outcome of the situation, the most powerful thing that you can say for yourself, the most powerful invitation that you can face for yourself, well, what can I say or do? How can I be to create the highest possibility that is available given certain things that are out of my control? And sometimes the highest possibility in a tragedy like what I just told you with my brother-in-law passing away, sometimes the highest possibility is to cry together. I remember when I was facing my own disease, I had stage 4 cervical cancer in my 20s, and I was given about a year to live. I was like, clearly, you know how the story ends. I'm here, right? So we know that we won, right? However, at the time, I didn't know that. And my daughter at the time was 3 years old, about 4. And there was a time when I was sitting at the dining room table and I was just like looking at bills and test results and this and the third, and what am I going to do? And I was overwhelmed, and I just started crying. She had already been put to bed, but she heard me crying. And so she came out of her room and she sat on my lap. And she's like, "Mommy, what's the matter?" I was like, I'm just thinking about a lot of stuff. I hadn't told her, obviously, what was going on. And she put her head right here and she started rocking me and she started crying. I was like, "Honey, I know why I'm crying. Why are you crying?" And she said, "Mommy, when we cry together, it goes by faster." I still remember that to this day. And I think that is the best definition of compassion that I've ever heard. That was amazing. And so you have an opportunity to be that for yourself and for the people that you love. Rose says, "I am thinking about the impact on our self-perception, self-esteem, when we can respond as you suggest versus deflecting." Yeah, because when you're saying "I choose not to," or when you say, "How about this other possibility?" you're standing in a position of co-creation. You're standing in a position of possibility, of power, and giving the other person power as well. Co-create this with me. Let's figure out something that works for the both of us, right? So awesome. Thank you, Rose. Faith says, "What about when you can't, when you feel like you can't, when you have lost hope? How can we recreate a sense of trust, hope, and can do attitude after trauma?" Oh, Faith. And what a great name for such a question. How perfect that your name is Faith when you're like, how do we sustain this? Lord have mercy. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, the same point that I had made earlier, which is there are certain things that are beyond our control. There are certain things that, Lord have mercy, if there was anything that I could do about it, I would give my right arm if I could bring my brother back or bring my father back instead of having them gone. However, I literally cannot. I'm not talking about things that I literally cannot do. But given that there are certain things that are beyond my control, what can I do? What can I say? Who can I be? And in that question, Faith, in just being in the question of given all of this, what can I say? What can I do? Who can I be? That is the breeding ground for trust and hope. That is the breeding ground for possibility, because you're literally investigating possibilities in the face of impossibility. And isn't that faith? To be able to see the evidence of things not seen. Yeah, isn't that faith? Now, I'll say this about trauma, because sometimes I hear that word being thrown around when what we really mean is a difficult circumstance. We may not necessarily mean trauma. I have heard trauma defined clinically, psychology, etc., as the inability to be in the present moment because you're responding to a past trigger or traumatic event. So when, for example, if somebody has been mugged, for example, then when you invite them out to go in public, they say no to your invitation, not because your invitation triggers them, but because they're responding to wanting to be protected from the earlier episode of being mugged, right? Thank you, Andrea. And so this is a possibility for you to, again, become a bigger plate. What can I say? What can I do? Who can I be? And in that way, create possibility for others when you're in that conversation with other people. So thank you so much, everybody, for being with us. I hope that you take the A to Z roadmap and just play with that, put it in your journal for yourself. There may be some things that you are saying that you cannot do in the moment, that now maybe by listening to this episode, you're like, I was lying. I just choose not to. That's okay. You want to be that authentic and that truthful and that forthcoming with yourself, because out of that reality, you can create other possibilities. Thank you so much for being here with us. We love you. See you next time.